happy to just indicate that the second item is a resolution to approve the engineer's report, declare the board's intention to order the assessment, et cetera. I don't think we're prepared to give a staff.
Okay, Mayor, we're going live. I'm going to start the video.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being webcast on Comcast TV Channel 15 and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel at https://www.youtube.com/user/City of Hayward and on the city website at https://hayward.legistar.com/calendar.aspx. The mayor will call upon members of the city council, city staff, and other speakers by name and ask that they state their names before giving comments or remarks. Individuals participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. City council members and members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature, and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. Members participating via teleconference wishing to speak should dial *9, and they will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received by email at list-mayor-council@hayward-ca.gov, city clerk at hayward-ca.gov, or via e-comment by 3 p.m. will be distributed to the city council and staff, published on the city's meeting and agenda center under documents received after published agenda, and entered into the record. Documents received after 3 p.m. through the adjournment of the meeting will be included as part of the meeting record and published the following day. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date. Public members wishing to speak with the City Council can send an email to list-mayor-council@hayward-ca.gov or cityclerk@hayward-ca.gov.
And so I just want to welcome everyone to this concurrent meeting of the Hayward Geologic Hazard Abatement District Board and the Hayward City Council. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will start with, please join me in, and I think, let's see, do we have our city clerk? Yes, our city clerk, Ms. Lenz, is on camera with the flag. So please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see Council Member Zermano also had his flag up. Thank you. And I will ask our city clerk, Ms. Lenz, to please call the roll.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening. This is also for the Geologic Hazard Abatement District Board. Thank you. Member Andrews?
Present.
Member Lamnan?
Present.
Member Marquez?
Present.
Member Salinas?
Present.
Member Wahab?
Here.
Member Cermeño?
I am present. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and Chair Halliday?
Here.
Thank you. All
So,
seven.
as you can see, we are back on a virtual platform here, as you saw from the beginning, due to, the Omicron and the spike in cases. We will be doing this next week as well, and then we will make a decision going forward about when and if we will be returning. Well, we will someday, I hope, be returning to the council chambers and regular meetings, but we will be monitoring the situation. And but for now, we will be holding this meeting in next week's in the virtual platform. And so we are now going to go into the agenda of the Hayward Geologic Hazard Abatement District board. And I'm going to ask if there are any public comments. We have two agenda items on this for this part of the meeting. And I will ask if there are any members of the public in attendance who wish to comment on matters pertaining to the Geologic Hazard Abatement District that are not on this agenda. I'm not seeing any hands raised among public attendees. So we'll go ahead and close public comments. We will be having public comments for the regular city council meeting later once we're done with this part. So, all right, so we're going to close public comments for this portion and move to the consent, to what is labeled as the consent calendar, basically two items. The first item is approval of the Hayward Geologic Hazard Abatement. We're going to take these items separately. And in fact, I think at this time, I'll either turn this over to Mr. Harrell or Ms. Morrison, whichever of you want to go ahead and take over for these two items.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Good evening, Chair Halliday. Sure. Good evening, Chair Halliday and members of the GAD board. My name is Amber Morrison, and I'm with the law firm of Wendell Rosen, and I'm serving as the board clerk this evening. As Chair Halliday mentioned, you have just two items on the consent calendar this evening. The first is a resolution to approve the minutes of the November 16th, 2021 GAD meeting, and I will be calling for a roll call vote, please. So I will begin that now. And if you could just answer in the affirmative or just pose your vote vocally, I would appreciate it. Board Member Andrews.
I think we have to make a motion.
Yeah, we do have to. I think we have to.
I'm sorry. Yes. If you, yes,
and
if
I will
would make a motion, please. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Marquez has moved. I will say if there were any public comments on the minutes, please raise your hand. I'm seeing none. We'll go into. Okay, so Councilmember Marquez has moved approval of the minutes. Was there someone who seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, and seconded by Councilmember Andrews. Please go ahead. Any comments from council members? Seeing no hands raised, please go ahead.
Who made the motion? I apologize. I thought I heard Councilmember Andrews twice. Okay, Councilmember Marquez. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, very good. All right, so the motion is to approve the minutes of November 16th GAD board meeting. Board Member Andrews?
Aye.
Board Member Marquez?
Aye.
Board Member Lamnon?
Aye.
Board Member Salinas?
Yes.
Board Member Wahab?
Yes.
Board Member Zemeno?
Aye.
And Chair Halliday?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, and so that motion carries with 7 aye votes.
Thank you. The second is a resolution to approve the Hayward SOMI Development Engineers Report, to declare the board's intention to order an assessment for the Hayward SOMI development, and finally to set a public hearing to consider the proposed assessment and any protests thereto. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Vice Cermeño.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion to approve this the staff recommendation on item number 2, made by Councilmember Cermeño, seconded by Councilmember Lamnon. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing no hands raised, I'll close public comment. ask if there are any council questions. There are none. So please, Ms. Morrison, go ahead with doing a roll call vote on this motion.
All right, thank you. Board Member Andrews,
Aye.
Board Member Marquez,
Aye.
Board Member Lamnon,
Aye.
Board Member Salinas,
Yes.
Board Member Wahab,
Yes.
Board Member Zermano,
Aye.
and Chair Halliday.
Yes. And the motion carries with 7 aye votes. So with that, we'll move to the GAD manager's report. Mr. Harrell, did you have any comments this evening?
Yeah, 2 really quick comments. Thank you, Chair Holliday. One is with the motion approving tonight, we will have a set meeting for March 15th to have the public hearing to consider the ballots for the assessment for the SOMI development. So the agenda says there's not a fixed date, but with the approval tonight, we will have that for March 15th. Second really quick thing is that, yes, it's good. It's been raining. The reserve site out there and the Hayward GAD has been doing very well. And so we continue to monitor, but it's performing very well in a normal rain year. So.
All right. Thank you for that. Any questions? Don't see any. So are there any GAD board members reports, referrals, or future agenda items to suggest? Seeing no hands raised.
Mayor, I have one quick.
Okay. Yes. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could please just ask the board manager for our next meeting, if we could please be provided a tally of how many homes are actually in the GAD and how many are anticipated in the pipeline, if you could just make that a report out when you provide your updates, please.
We'll certainly do.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any others? Any other board member reports, referrals, future? No. Seeing none, we will then go ahead and adjourn. With that information from Mr. Harrell that we will be having another GAD board meeting on March 15th to consider what the assessments that we just moved ahead with in item number 2. And with that, we will adjourn the GAD Board of Directors meeting and move on to the regular Hayward City Council meeting. Thank you, Mr. Harrell and Ms. Morrison, and Ms. Ralston also, I think, is here with the GAD board. Thank you for your presence and information, and we will see you all then on March 15th, I guess. Okay. Thank you. So with that, we will move on to our regular city council meeting. And I will start with the closed session announcements. And our city attorney is here, Mr. Lawson. Closed session announcements for a meeting that we held on, a closed session that we held on December 20th, and also one that was held earlier this evening in part.
Mayor, because the earlier closed session will resume after the regular meeting, I'd like to suggest that we make the complete report out when the closed session is finished. Okay. That could be later tonight.
Well, which will be, actually the report out will come at our next council meeting, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. But on the December 20th, do you want to make were you at the December 20th? Is someone going to report on the December 20th closed session?
Mayor, I'd also like to report out on that one at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. So then we will move on to public comments. So I will open public comments for items not otherwise on this council agenda this evening. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? Madam City Clerk, I'm not seeing any hands.
And I'm not aware of any requests to speak, Mayor.
Okay, I will close public comments and we'll move on to comments from our city manager, Ms. McAdoo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and welcome back virtually to 2022. Just one quick announcement I wanted to make for those who hadn't heard yet or seen the announcement today. The federal government did launch its free COVID test distribution program. Every household or every individual in the United States can get up to 4 free COVID test kits. I believe they have 2 tests per kit. The website that you can go to is www.covidtests.gov. We'll also post something on our website about that, but you just simply fill in your mailing address and shipping is free. The U.S. Postal Service is shipping the free tests. So I would encourage everyone to please go on, given the shortage of testing that has happened nationwide, just having some tests on hand would be a good opportunity for everyone. Also, just want to remind individuals, which I was reminded of today, that if you have purchased a COVID test out of pocket, your medical insurance should reimburse you for that. So I would also encourage, if you have had to purchase a home COVID test kit in the last few weeks, to go ahead and try and work with your insurance company for reimbursement on that. So just a couple of quick COVID announcements. And as the mayor mentioned, we will be meeting virtually through the month of January, and then we'll revisit what we will be doing moving forward. Hopefully Omicron, which appears to be surging quickly and hopefully dying off quickly, will work its way through and we'll be able to be back in person. So good to see everyone again. Happy 2022.
Thank you for that report. Any questions of the city manager? That wasn't you raising your hand, Councilmember Lambton, right? You okay? All right. All right. So thank you for the report. We'll now move on to our action items, and we have a very long consent calendar. Actually, this evening, one of the longest I've seen. I think items 1 through 20, I believe it is. Yes, items 1 through 20. First, I'll ask if there are any members of the public who wish to pull off or comment on any of these items.
And did we do general public comment?
Yeah, we did. I think we did. I opened it.
Apologies. I'm sorry.
Sure.
My apologies.
Yeah. Okay. There weren't any though, so that might be why you didn't. Okay.
That's why I missed it. Sorry about that.
I'm not seeing any hands on this, so I will go to council, and I see Council Member Zermeño.
Oh, Mayor, I was going to move on consent items.
All right. Is there a second to that? Council Member Andrews, did you want to pull anything off?
I wanted to just comment on 2 items.
All right. I think that's probably okay without pulling them off, if that's all right with you. Okay, go ahead.
So for item number 12, I just wanted to thank Kaiser for the lactation areas. That is something that has definitely come to light for me in the past couple of years that not necessarily everyone thinks about when design, and like to also encourage staff to consider these types of spaces and areas for future projects. Also think about requesting changing tables for men's restrooms as well, because if the changing tables are in the women's restrooms only, it's a challenge if they're by themselves, or the burden is still on the female to change a diaper. So thank you so much, and continue to think about family rooms in future design as well. So thank you so much, Kaiser. And then for item 13, I hope for the trash receptacles that we consider public art. Public art does deter graffiti, and I hope that we can work with our partners to incorporate more public art into our city. Thank you.
Okay, right. So Councilmember Andrews was commenting on the item regarding authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $15,000 from the Kaiser Foundation Health Plan to support the purchase of a lactation pod for the downtown library. And I join her in thanking Kaiser for that. I'm sure the rest of us do as well. And then in item number 13, really what we're doing tonight is just extending the deadline again while we're continuing. And certainly all of that will come back to council. The Sustainability Committee has discussed this, and I believe it will come back again, certainly before final action or for final action, and council will have a chance to weigh in. But I believe our public works director was most likely on the line and heard your comment too. So, and as did the rest of us who are on this. Yeah, you don't want to talk, right? You just yes, indicating that you.
I
go ahead, Mr.
I had the comment. Thank you. I had the comment. And as we had previously indicated, the new receptacles have room for posters. So one idea is to use the winning posters from the poster and writing contest to put it there and contribute to public art that way, or any other things that you may like to do. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you for that input. With that, not seeing any other hands raised. So let's see, we had a motion, right, by Councilmember Zermano? And did you second that motion, Councilmember Andrews?
I didn't, but I can.
All right. So items 1 through 20 on the motion to approve staff recommendations, but made by Councilmember Zermano, seconded by Councilmember Andrews. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermano.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 21. However, item number 21 regarding appeal of the Planning Commission denial to develop a new approximately 116,000 square foot industrial building for U-Haul at 4150 Point Eden Way. That item has been continued to the February 15th meeting at the request of the applicant. So if there was anybody here wanting to weigh in or hear that item, it will not be heard this evening. It has been moved to the meeting of February 15th. Now we'll move on to item number 22, which is adoption of a resolution updating the City of Hayward's legislation program. And we're going to hear from City Manager McAdoo to start us off on that, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Halliday and council members. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Laurel James, Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office, who will do the staff presentation, and then we'll be available for questions.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, City Manager McAdoo. As City Manager said, my name is Laurel James. I'm a Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office. I'll be presenting tonight on the legislative program update. I'm on a recommendation to councils to adopt a resolution updating the City of Hayward's legislative program. A brief refresher on the city's legislative program. It establishes the city's legislative priorities at the state and federal levels of government. And the document serves three key purposes. It serves as a broad statement of the city's positions on major policy issues. It provides direction to the city's legislative advocates and is a foundation for the city's actions regarding federal and state legislation, regulations, referenda, ballot measures, budgets, public grant funding opportunities, anything you can think of that has to do with the creation of legislation, allocation of resources at the state and federal levels. And as a reminder, the city does take several actions in relation to these items that we choose to support or oppose. We can work with our legislative advocates. The City Council can pass a resolution supporting or opposing a particular action by the state or federal government, and the mayor can write a letter in support or in opposition on behalf of the city. Staff also provide policy analysis that's aligned with this legislative program for referrals from council members to support or oppose legislation at the state and federal levels. The current legislative program was adopted by council in 2017. And so about 5 years later, we decided it was time for a refresher. So in updating the legislative program, staff, and I want to give a very important round of applause to our former local government management fellow, Terrence Kendall, who took the lead on this program. He worked with staff at the city who are subject matter experts on several of these programs, the city's legislative advocates and executive team members to review and make changes to the existing document. Some of the priorities were to align the document with the council stated strategic roadmap goals and projects, since the strategic roadmap was developed prior to the adoption of the previous legislative program. And a couple of the elements that were incorporated as a result of this realignment were COVID-19 response and recovery, racial equity, and a couple new priorities that we'll be reviewing shortly. The fundamental legislative priorities in the document remain the same. Number one is enhancing and preserving city revenue sources so that revenue is not lost at the state or federal level. And we continue to pursue and advocate for funding at the local level for local programs that are responsive to the community, and so that we can continue providing services to our community based on their needs. Additionally, the other top priority is maintaining home rule authority, which is a general stance against, for example, unfunded mandates at the state or federal level, or the removal of local authority over, for example, land use or other regulatory powers of the city. So we previously had 7 priority categories. There were 2 new priority categories of policy areas that the city takes a legislative stance on that were included in this update. There were immigration and voting rights that were added to this document.
Laurel, I'm sorry. It doesn't look like your slides advanced. I just want to make sure that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank Miriam. She noticed.
Thank you, Miriam. They are advancing on my end. Is it working now for you?
No, it's not.
That's unfortunate. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Let me try sharing my screen again.
Great. Thanks, Laurel.
Thank you. Are the slides able to change for you now?
We're on slide 2. Yep, there we go. Perfect.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Miriam and Kelly. Appreciate it. Updating the legislative program we discussed the fundamental legislative priorities, and we talked about the new priority categories. Again, there were 7 previous priority categories, which you can see here, which were included in the legislative plan, the legislative program, and we added 2 new priority categories, immigration and voting rights. And we'll dive deeper into those a little bit later. So some of those key updates were this immigration section. This is in alignment with the City Council's Sanctuary City Resolution adopted in 2017, the city's strategic roadmap, which expresses the city's commitment to supporting the quality of life for all residents, regardless of immigration status, and various other plans and documents in which council has reaffirmed their commitment to all members of the Hayward community. So the key updates on the immigration section include supporting legislation that promotes the health and well-being, removes barriers to health services and economic success, fosters civic engagement, and streamlines integration for immigrants and immigrant families, support of DACA and any legislation that protects undocumented children, support legislation that funds education and outreach efforts for hard-to-count populations, such as immigrants and limited English speakers during the U.S. Census, which is now completed, but we'll be looking at another cycle in 10 years. Oppose federal regulations or proposals that would withhold funding as a penalty for non-compliance with federal immigration policies, again, aligned with the city's Sanctuary City Ordinance. So those are the immigration updates. We also have a section on voting rights now, which again is about the city's general support for inclusion and democracy. some supporting legislation that establishes or expands early voting opportunities and increases physical voting accessibility for elderly and disabled voters, support legislation that expands voter registration opportunities by establishing or expanding automatic registration and same-day or election day registration, oppose ballot initiatives that restrict mail-in voting, ballot eligibility, accessibility to drop boxes, or ability to remain an absentee voting ballot on the absentee ballot voting ballot list, oppose ballot initiatives that impose harsher in-person voting requirements or limit the number and accessibility of polling locations, and oppose ballot initiatives that restrict voter registration or expand voter roll purging. So those are the key updates that would be addition in that category. There's also a section on COVID-19 that says support legislation that would provide economic relief for local businesses and commercial property owners affected by the COVID-19 shutdowns and stay-in-place orders. While this is called out in the city's legislative program, the city also does advocate for aid for families and children, support at the state and federal level for testing, PPE, and vaccination programs, as you've seen in the actions the city has taken as part of our own service provision. We have also extended that to our legislative advocacy. And then there are key updates related to racial equity, which include supporting legislation, policies, and programs that are explicitly designed to address racial disparities by advancing racial equity and anti-racism, and supporting legislation that aims to advance racial equity by improving the standard of living for historically disenfranchised groups and low-income families. So should the council adopt the attached resolution, the resolution attached to the staff report confirming this update to the legislative program, staff will post the updated legislative program on the city's website on the legislative program page. Direct the city's legislative advocates to implement the new legislative priorities as adopted by council, and continue to provide analysis and support of council legislative support and opposition in alignment with the adopted plan. And with that, I'm happy to take your questions.
Okay, and could you take your screen down now, please?
Absolutely.
It makes it easier to see, yes, if there are questions. So, Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Laurel, for your presentation. I just have a couple questions. I think I just heard you mention we have a website dedicated to this. Can you share that just so we could visually see what it looks like? And then what is our current policy when the mayor submits letters of support? What's our current practice? And support or opposition to any type of legislation?
You know, I always vet it by the staff, and the city manager and the staff determine whether the particular letter fits our already agreed upon legislative priorities. Then I will go ahead and do it. If it doesn't, I could either submit it not on behalf of the city and the city council, but personally, or come back to the city council and ask. So I think that probably summarizes it, Madam City Manager.
That's correct. And sometimes staff will initiate letters based on input from our lobbyists, in which we'll reach out to the mayor. And again, if she feels uncomfortable or if it's something inconsistent with overall council policy and direction, she'll ask that it be agendized for action. And that's typically for letters. I think on ballot measures, we typically always bring those to council with a resolution, and then that becomes a formal action of the council.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Did you want?
I was going to say, we're also happy to take suggestions from any other council members who might want the mayor to submit a letter, and then we do the same thing, review of that, and have the mayor sign on behalf of the council.
And Laurel, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was happy to share the what the web page looks like at Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you.
Here we go. So it's just a web page on the city's website under Your Government Legislative Program. Has a picture of the Capitol and a brief summary of the legislative program, as well as the high-level priorities and a link to the legislative program. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Just wanted to make sure the public knew that it was easy to access. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Lamnon, I believe Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. So I appreciate seeing the website, and I wanted to kind of build on Councilmember Marquez's question and wondering if we may need either within the legislative program or perhaps as a additional page in our council handbook, some additional clarity around when is it a resolution? When is it a letter? Is it consistent with the existing policy? Therefore, it's probably a letter. If it's not articulated, then maybe it's a resolution. I'm not trying to draft this tonight. I'm just sort of asking about, do we have that clarity? I know I'm thinking I don't. And so I'm wondering if we may need to articulate that somewhere.
Yeah, we can maybe work on that. And I think maybe make some modifications, but I would suggest we update the plan with the new priorities. So at least we have those, and then we can figure out how we insert the process. Maybe it's as part of the next handbook update, because we do have council guidelines on state and federal issues in the council handbook. So we'll talk through that, but it would be nice to have the updated priorities adopted without that process step.
Yeah, I sort of bring it up as a question, kind of separate from the exact priorities, but may also tie in a little bit to the referral process, et cetera. I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we should take a look at the handbook and see what we do say about that, the legislative policy and, letters may be sent by the mayor that can, that reflect that policy that has been adopted, but we'll look at that. Good suggestion. Okay.
Thank you. And then I had one other quick question, which was, in section 1.9, the voting rights section, currently items C and D are opposed ballot initiatives. Does it make sense, or is there a reason that it's not ballot initiatives or legislation? Would these things not be done by legislation?
That's a great question, Councilmember Lamnon, and one that I wish I could refer to our local government management fellow. I believe that was probably the rationale, is that at least in California at this point in time, they're not likely to be done by legislation. But I think you make a salient point that perhaps distinguishing between the two and for the purposes of the legislative program isn't necessary.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you, and of course, Terrence, for the work on this very much.
Okay. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. I personally think it's a positive that we are doing this because, the
Councilmember Wahab, I don't want to get out of order here because we didn't open public comment on this item. So it sounded like you were making a comment. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, ask the question, and then we'll come back to comments after. I don't know that anybody, we don't have a lot of attendees, but I just want to make sure we follow so I don't forget the public comment on it. Okay.
Okay. But I wanted to ask if we are potentially split on, because sometimes, we see letters go out with kind of like our feedback requested, but a very short time frame between the time that it's sent to us for us to review and it's actually sent to, whoever it's sent to. Are we like, when we do this, is there, let's say, a timeline implemented that, hey, you get 48 hours to review a letter after an email is sent from, our city manager to, hey, please review this letter from the mayor, or this is something we're interested. What is the kind of the program, if you will?
I'll say that I don't think, in general, if we deem it consistent with council policy, we will send the letter and send it to the council simultaneously.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So there's no timeline to comment on a letter. Now, there are times when there's something in the works that we do, we're not sure we're not sure if it's totally consistent, or we know that there are questions, in which case then, I know the city manager sometimes will send out.
So my purpose of asking this is, granted this letter, again, whether it's from the full city council, and if it's, again, priorities is one thing. And I'm just saying, do we have an opportunity to solicit feedback from the city council members, to add one line that, they want, or one bullet point, or, this is what I'm asking. Is there some type of timeline if we are going to implement a program like this where we're talking about these types of items?
If that's the council's desire, we could, whenever a letter is drafted, email it out to the council and give, depending on the time sensitivity of it. But I think that, I'll leave it up to we could give 48 hours to, if there's any comments or concerns with the letter, but I'll leave it up to the council to see what the pleasure of the council is on that one.
Yeah, I would caution about that, because sometimes we do get these sort of urgent requests from our lobbyists that this would be helpful now to do. I would say that if, that any council member is, certainly entitled to send a follow-up letter or a letter on their own too. But I would caution against any kind of strict deviation from the policy we have now of basically trying to follow certainly if you have objection, you should follow up with both, me and the city manager about it, and perhaps send your own. But I don't think we want to put that into a policy, because I do think sometimes we're really on a short timeline, and our lobbyists are saying that, they really need these letters to get out.
Okay, 100% agree, right? I get it. We've done it in the past. We've seen the letters that you've sent previously, but, I just want to say, okay, so one, soliciting feedback from the entire council. Number two is also the concern of, let's say one person's completely opposed to the letter, right? Are we kind of suggesting, some avenue for them of here are the emails that we sent it to. If you would like to send your own, here you go, because there is some deviation. For example, I know previously we sent a letter because the council was split on a particular topic, right? So it's just those types of things that I just kind of want to understand if we are making some opportunity and options for.
Well, you're always going to get a copy of the letter, and if you want to send a letter that raises additional points or counters certain points. And sometimes, it might be something where the council is split, but if the council majority has, said this is what we want as our policy, we'll follow that. And if you're, so you're not depriving anybody of weighing in. And we do send the letters out to the council. So if you want to follow up with comments of your own, you should.
Okay. And I will leave the rest to my comments, but, I just wanted to highlight some of those concerns.
Yeah, I just don't think we want to we are often on a short timeline, and to establish some kind of a process where everybody can weigh in, and then we have to rewrite the letter 4 times, and we might miss the boat on whatever it is. And I don't think we want to do that. And I can just say that it's not that that any of us want to, counter the will of the council. So, and if we did that, I think, then we'd have to have a serious discussion, and we would entertain, having an agendized item and maybe send, if that happened, but
it's more like, Mayor, it's for example, let's say, it was something within, of course we all agree. And let's say one of us even wanted to really advocate for, let's say, one piece of it, right? More so, right? This is the most important piece, something like that. I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to highlight something, state something is, a concern, or solicit feedback. So it's just
you have that opportunity on your own. But the thing is, so these letters are usually drafted by our lobbyists mostly. And, and they do serve a purpose in trying to influence, and something that, and I don't ever recall actually getting feedback and, that wasn't, or you should have said this instead, or you said, or that wasn't. I think we're pretty careful about, that kind of stuff really being part of our, reflecting what the council majority has decided to do. But we always send them, of course. And yeah, I would urge you to follow up on your own if you want to highlight something or say or add or object to something even, that absolutely is always. And, when you get you see who it goes to. So you can certainly do that on your own. But yeah, to have a group editing process is going to be unwieldy. I can guarantee that based on what my experience with getting these and trying to turn them out, get them out the door to achieve whatever purpose it is we're trying to achieve here, to influence a vote at a higher body. But point well taken. And we certainly will be careful. And maybe we could send a message out to the whole council, Madam City Manager, when we're working on one or when we get a request from, so that you can email us back to say you'd like to emphasize a particular point, and we would consider that.
We're happy to make that a part. If it's not a super urgent, time-sensitive letter, I'm happy to send a courtesy to the council and give 48 hours to review. I think that seems reasonable.
We might not always have the letter, but that we're working on a letter on a subject. Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Any other questions from the council?
That was one question.
If not, I'm going to open public comment on this item. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this item? Seeing no hands raised, we'll come back to the council for comments. And Councilmember Wahab, did you still want to go ahead?
Thank you. I didn't realize I'm on the iPad this time, so it's whether my hand is up or now. But yes, no, I just wanted to highlight. For me, it's more just being able to review the letter. I understand the time urgency. I get that, and that's why I said even if it's within a couple of hours, just a little bit more of a heads up than the unanimous just we send at the same time that we inform council. But it's more, for example, if we were to talk about racial equity, right? There are certain terminology that may, some people may feel strongly about, opposed, or supportive of. And so just being able to say, okay, look, I don't necessarily agree with this term or this phrasing of it, or it's X, Y, and Z, right? And that's something, or that, one individual doesn't necessarily agree, that's fine. But, just being able to have them read it. And if they would like to send it, just the transparency of like, hey, we're going to send this on whatever legislation we're discussing at that moment in time. It's nothing significant. Obviously, it's a letter. It's a letter of like, whether or not we overall support something, don't support something, or a particular piece. But I just want a little bit of transparency, a little bit of potential if there is language, especially as we are talking about the racial equity component of it. And like I said, there are certain terms that are still being utilized even by legislators that, we may copy and paste because that's what our lobbyist is using and so forth, but it's not necessarily appropriate to us. So I just want to highlight certain things that I think we do need a review on. Other than that, I'm fine with it for the most part.
Okay. Well, we can try to do what we can to get them out. I would say it might be an hour's time at times. If, Yeah,
100%. I get it. And, sometimes it slips through the cracks for all of us. But,
and please bring me any examples that you have of this having happened in the past. Okay. So we can look at that and make sure we don't do it again. Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. So to Councilmember Wahab's point about language, I would like to move the item, but I have a couple small language changes that I'd like to recommend. So I'll say those and then see if there's a second. So
public comment. I don't know that we opened public comment.
Yeah, we did. We did. There just isn't any tonight. That's what everybody's not remembering.
All good. I did the same thing. So on item 1.6 under homelessness, item E, hoping we can add the word vocational in the and/or nonprofit entities that provide supportive services, provide vocational supportive services, and housing for, and this is the language piece, for people who are homeless, seniors, veterans, and others with special needs.
Okay, this was 1.6 E.
Mm-hmm.
The language, okay, and you are saying support legislation that aids or helps to fund the city and our nonprofit entities that provide support services and housing for.
So provide, I'm adding the word vocational because part of addressing homelessness is vocational support.
Right.
So vocational, provide vocational supportive services and housing for people who are homeless, seniors, veterans, and others with special needs.
So for people who are homeless, I get that. I'm not sure I get, limiting services to vocational.
No, not limiting, adding the word vocational. So it would read entities that provide vocational, supportive services, and housing for people.
Is it correct to say they provide vocational? That doesn't seem complete to me.
Vocational and supportive services and housing for people.
Okay.
Be more accurate.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fair. So that would be change 1. And then change 2 would be in item 1.9, letter A. Again, kind of a language issue here. So increases physical voting accessibility for voters who are elderly and or have disabilities.
Okay.
So those would be my 2 asks.
Say that again. Support legislation that establishes or expands early voting opportunities and increases physical voting accessibility for
voters who are elderly and or have disabilities.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's my motion. Thank you, Francisco.
Okay. And seconded by Francisco. Council members, Ormeño, did you want to comment?
We were talking a little earlier about the resolutions. Maybe somewhere within this particular document, we can tell or state the difference between a resolution and a proclamation. Sometimes I get confused.
I think that's actually in the council handbook. It talks about the different types of recognitions. So we do have that in the council handbook already.
All right, good. All right, I will look for it again. Thanks a lot.
Okay. And Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just had a question about the terms and just making sure we get clearance on those terms. I'm not quite sure if everyone's okay with using unhoused or versus homeless. So just double check all the terms with people who know how to phrase things, just if that's possible after even this vote. And thank you to Councilmember Lamnin for bringing up the letter versus resolution, because it could save a lot of heartache of us bringing up items and understanding what is the possibility of getting it moved. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, and I assume, Ms. James, that this has been looked at by the equity the people who look at stuff from the staff level for equity issues. Has it been reviewed by, I forget what you call that, Madam City Manager, but you have an in-house.
The GARE cohort.
The GARE cohort, okay, sorry. Has it been looked at by them?
Several members of the GARE cohort were involved in this update, yes.
Yes, and okay. And so I don't see any other council hands raised, and we do have a motion and a second. I actually wanted to make some suggested changes too. It does refer to what we've been using for a long time: safe, clean, green, and we added thrive at some point. That might be a little. And I don't know, maybe this is, because they are our priorities, and I know we have our strategic roadmap coming up, but I really would like to look at, first of all, replacing clean with healthy. I don't know, clean has not to in any way, try to, question the work of our Keep Hayward Clean and Green Task Force, but I don't know. I think that it really refers to healthy, keeping, trash picked up and all of that is a healthy environment. And then maybe sustainable instead of green, and also adding equitable to that list. And maybe that's something that we talk about at the strategic roadmap workshop too. But those are some thoughts I've had for a while about, that we've been using that safe, clean, and green since before some of you were born. Maybe, no, not really, but certainly for quite a while, back to the single digits in the century, and we're now into the third decade. And so it might be worth looking at. And then, safety. We actually last year lobbied on to support a bill. I believe we did at this body. I know I was passionate about it at all of the bodies that I serve on, to support a bill that would have allowed us to use automated speed enforcement. Maybe we haven't talked about that as a body, but I think several of us have recently, in fact, all of us, I think, have been on a walk with some residents on a particular street in our city that it cries out for something like that. And there are certainly other places, and I've been lobbying for it. There was a bill introduced last year. It became a 2-year bill, so it's back again this year, and I don't know what will happen to it. I know there's a lot of opposition from some quarters, and yet, to me, this is an important thing. We all know the amount of complaints we get from throughout the city about people speeding in automobiles. So I don't know if the maker of the motion and the seconder are amenable. Maybe I'll pull back on the changing the basic priorities at this point. We can always talk about that at the roadmap, and I would ask that we do that, actually, that we talk about those words at the roadmap and see if we want to, tweak them. And we can amend the legislative policy then, I think. But what about the adding something along the lines of giving local government greater resources and authority to increase traffic and pedestrian safety? And that doesn't use the word speed cameras, but I think in general, we did get a bill last year that allowed us more flexibility in setting speed limits. So would that be acceptable, Councilmember Lamnen, as the maker of the motion, to add to our legislative program on, I'm not even sure where this would go exactly, but we would advocate for measures that give local governments greater resources and authority to increase traffic and pedestrian safety.
Maybe 1.4 under transportation and infrastructure, add an item I.
Yes, that would work.
Okay, that works for me, Francisco. And
all
Laurel,
right.
Does that?
Yes, I'm happy to capture the council edits just one last time. Support measures that give local government more authority and resources to implement measures that improve pedestrian and traffic safety.
Yes, that sounds fine. Okay, so, and the maker and the second accept that. So any other comments on the legislative program? With that, then on this motion by Councilmember Lamnen, seconded by Councilmember Zermano, and amended. Do you have those amendments, Madam City Clerk? Do you want any clarification on any of that?
I believe I have all of them, Mayor. I know there were amendments to...
the ones went from Councilmember Lamnen?
Yes, 1.6 letter E, and 1.9 letter A, and in addition to 1.4 letter I. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that is it.
Thank you. All right. And if you could indicate who made the motion again, please.
It was Councilmember Lamnen, seconded by Councilmember Zermano.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnen.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So now we can move on to item number 23, which is an informational report regarding Hayward water bills.
So there's no, as the council member on informational items, there's no staff presentation or council discussion, but if a council member would like us to agendize the item for discussion at a future meeting, we can do so. Otherwise, it's purely for transparency to bring light to the issue.
And I will just say that the Sustainability Committee did talk about this and concurred with the current with what was presented to us, which does make a more clearly state information on the water bills. I just have to say this though, in the example of the new bill given in the staff report, one thing that is great about the new bill is that it shows the comparison of your water use this month, this year compared to a year ago. But in the example that was given, every single month showed more water use this year than last year. So if we were mocking up a bill again, I would like to see it the other way around and kind of set a good example for using less water this year than last year. But it's just an example, so no need to make any changes. However, I want to thank staff for their work on this because it really is an improvement in how we present information on people's water bills, and it will help people make decisions about their water use. And so I thank the other members of the Sustainability Committee, Council members Cermeño and Marquez, and certainly staff for coming up with this. And I'm not seeing any hands raised. So with that, we can move on to council reports and announcements. And I see Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure, and I just wanted to bring this up to our city staff. It was asked of me, in the rotunda, how we have all the holidays, kind of a little bit about them. I am not 100% sure. I have not verified this, so I'm just going to raise it. Somebody brought up that Kwanzaa is not included. So it is. Is it behind something?
No, if I could, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it wasn't included because all of the banners were created by people who celebrate that particular holiday, and the committee couldn't find, they did multiple outreaches, could not find somebody who celebrated that holiday and willing to do a banner. But if you have somebody who is, then by all means, you can send them to me or you can send them to the Eden Interfaith Council directly. They're happy to have a Kwanzaa banner. The group was not going to make one without having the cultural competency to do it.
Okay. And I wasn't 100% sure because I thought maybe I missed it myself or, didn't scan the room properly, but it was raised and most likely I will connect you guys, I guess, if I don't know if they celebrate it, to be honest with you. It was just something they brought up in like casual conversation. So just wanted to highlight that. And other than that, I had nothing else. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind people that we will not be having a Keep Hayward Clean and Green event this weekend. Just wanted to keep you posted. Didn't want you showing up and thinking someone's going to be there. So we will reassess as we see what happens with this variant. Thank you.
Think you. And that's too bad, but we understand. And yes, I think you don't. You didn't take your hand down, but Councilmember Wahab, did you have anything else? Councilmember Wahab?
No.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I don't see any other hands up at the moment. So,
Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Salinas.
Okay, it was an 11th hour hand up. I wanted to, I just wanted to give a deep appreciation for Councilmember Andrews and, her work and continued work on the Keep Hayward Cleaning Green Task Force. I went to the last, task force, the last cleanup, neighborhood cleanup. And, even within this whole pandemic and, it was a pretty smooth operation, I have to say. I mean, those guys really know, what they're doing out there. It didn't look like nothing was cut back. It didn't look like there was, it didn't look like no services were being sort of, trimmed because of the pandemic. And, that task force, I'll tell you, they just have really have done a bang up job over there. And so and I think the last one I believe too was in South Hayward. And so we just did, we did a lot of great work over there. And so anyways, if Council Member Andrews, I don't know if you guys are meeting on Thursday, but if you guys, just tell them that, they're just doing a great job. And, we're looking forward to the next one. And, it was real neat to see the whole vibe out there. It was just really good. So that's it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would certainly echo that. I imagine everybody would really. We really appreciate that group. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you. I was going to say that even though we're not doing cleanups, you still can clean up your block with the Adopt a Block. And then also we are starting to plan for the Beautiful Yard Contest. So start cleaning up your yards so you can be nominated for that program. And we're trying to do other things in addition to the cleanups so we can keep Hayward cleaning green. So thank you. And I'll show your kudos.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing no one, that brings us to, we have no council referrals this evening. So that brings us to our adjournment. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday night at 7 p.m., January 25th. And we will again be meeting in a fully virtual format, such as this evening. So, and I'll remind the council that we are returning because we did not get through all the items in our closed session agenda. We will be returning to that meeting right as soon as we adjourn this one. But with that, for this evening, thank you all for your participation, and this meeting is adjourned. See you soon.